been a while since I gave everybody an update on the Stryker Rejuvenate litigation. Lots happened since the last time I gave a video update, so I'll try to bring you up to speed. To orient you to where we came from in that litigation, the first case was filed by our firm back in August of 2012 in New Jersey State Court. There ultimately was a coordinated proceeding established by the New Jersey Supreme Court in Bergen County in front of Judge Brian Martinotti. Ultimately, there were well over 2,000 cases filed in New Jersey State Court. At the same time, there were some folks that established a federal MDL. It was in Minnesota before Judge Donovan Frank. There were greater than 2,000 cases filed in the MDL. Both judges set a bellwether trial process and initiated discovery. Judge Martinotti, thinking way out of the box, implemented a bellwether mediation process where certain cases were picked and fast-tracked towards mediation. 21 of 21 out of those cases settled. So Judge Martinotti said, let's look at a more global picture. That ultimately resulted in a global settlement of all Stryker, Rejuvenate, and ABG2 cases in November of 2014. That would be for cases that patients had had revision surgery prior to that date. All of those patients, virtually all of them, qualified for the settlement program. From that point to today, lawyers have been submitting cases to the claims processor. Those have been evaluated and claims have been approved and paid almost exclusively for base value for those people that were qualified to enroll in the program. We're still currently working our way through the enhanced payment award process. The actual evaluation of those claims and the payment of those claims is still undergoing for what I'll call phase one of the Stryker settlement. I can tell you that compared to other hip implant litigations, this settlement has gone very, very well. Payments have been moved quickly to the plaintiffs. The values for settlement range anywhere between $250,000 and $1 million, depending upon what happened to the plaintiff. There has never been a hip implant litigation with a range of values that ranged as high as that ever, ever, ever. This is unprecedented. So I still believe it's a very, very good resolution for the vast majority of the plaintiffs. Where is the litigation headed? Well, there are still cases filed. There are unrevised cases filed, people that haven't had revisions yet in both the MDL and in New Jersey. There are cases for people who were revised after the cutoff date that didn't qualify to be fit into phase one of the settlement program. We believe there are close to 1,000 of those cases between the MDL and New Jersey. And to date, there has been no announcement by Stryker of a phase two settlement program. If I'm reading tea leaves, though, Stryker was extremely aggressive in the phase one settlement. They were very committed to getting payment in the hands of the people that were hurt as fast as possible. So nothing tells me that they've changed their stance or their attitude about that at all. And I would anticipate once this phase one process moves beyond the enhanced award payment program, Stryker can then pay attention to implementing a phase two. To date, there's no indications when that might be. There's no indications it's even going to happen. I'm just reading tea leaves on that, and I believe that you will see that happen soon. On the science side of the case, nobody wants to really talk about that anymore. They want to talk about the resolution process. But on the science side of the case, as lead of the science committee in New Jersey, I continue to work on developing the science side of the case. We are having devices tested as we speak. Our theory of device failure has been modified a little bit from what it was a year ago. Our experts are discovering new problems with this device every day. More literature has come out from doctors around the country and around the world criticizing the failure rate of this device. I believe that most people would agree that well more than 50% of these devices that were put in patients are going to have to come out of patients because they are poisoning patients. And just to give you a little bit of a comparison, there are guidelines, international guidelines, that tell us when and when not a product is successful, a hip implant product is successful. And the way that's measured is by looking at the revision rate. I told you that the Stryker Rejuvenate revision rate is going to exceed 50% by the time it's all said and done. maybe even higher than that. I've talked to doctors that think that every single one of them they put in is going to have to come out. So these guidelines that I mentioned basically suggest that 0.5% device failures should occur. That's the maximum, 0.5% per year up to 10 years. So that means if you put a bunch of devices in patients and you look at 10 years after the devices have been put in, 5% of less of those should have to be revised. And we aren't even at 10 years from when the first Rejuvenate was put in somebody, and greater than 50% of those have failed. So it's a catastrophic failure of this device. It's a very poor design. I don't think anybody can argue that. But Stryker is being very aggressive at trying to get compensation in the hands of those people that have been victims of this device. And if I were a betting man, I would say that a phase 2 settlement program should roll out within 2016. So it's been a very successful litigation for those that were heavily involved from a leadership standpoint. It's been professionally rewarding for myself. I've been able to get compensation in the hands of a lot of people who were hurt by this device, and I continue to work on the case every day.